Vision, transforming lives.
A very warm welcome to MBCI TV. You are watching the program, The Mid-Morning Pack, your weekly favorite show right here, talking about current affairs and everything in between. And it's a pleasure to have you, our dear viewer, today on this particular set. Now, we have quite a number of areas that we want to talk about in this particular show. And Paul Kagi, good to see you today.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm also fine.
Yes, doing fine?
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. And we have quite a number of issues that we want to discuss today. We want to look at, there has been talk about the creation of the office of the opposition leader in the country. We want to find out, is it important that we should have the office of the opposition leader? As we speak, do we have enough checks and balances to be able to oversee the day-to-day functioning of the government? We also want to look at the state of the Electoral Commission in the country, the IEBC, and see what is happening. And of course, later on in the discussion, we'll also be able to look at county appointments. Now, looking at what is happening in Meru and also looking at what is happening in Nakuru. Of course, Kagi, these are some of the things that have been making headlines recently.
Yes, correct. And I believe that through the program, we are going to put more light on the issues to make our viewers very much enlightened. But before we go there, it's good to remind our viewer that this week we are looking forward for several issues that are at hand. Number one, there is Azimio consultative meetings, which are starting today. Okay. Number two, we have primary school heads meeting in Mombasa. And finally, tomorrow we are expecting the Bungoma Senate by-election. And finally, the High Court has 2 more new judges to be able to work out the backlog of the cases in the High Court. Just few among other things we are looking forward to this week.
Okay, yes, that is what we are looking forward to. And remember, the by-election in Bungoma is being, or is a result of Senator Moses Wetangula, who is now the Speaker of the National Assembly. That has been occasioned by his moving to be the Speaker of the National Assembly in the country, and therefore that is what has occasioned the by-election that will basically take place in Bungoma. And I have seen that there is quite a high-level competition there among some of the candidates that have already gotten into that particular contest there. We'll be able to see what will be happening. And remember, the question that we are asking you today in this particular discussion or in this particular conversation, do you think we need the office of the opposition leader in the country? Do you think we really need the office of the opposition leader in the country? We want to hear your views. We want to see what are some of your opinions, what are some of your perspectives as far as this particular question is concerned. And as we always do it, you can give us your reflections. You can share with us your opinions on our feedback platforms. We have our short code, that is 23814, 23814. And of course, you can also catch us live on our social media pages, that is Facebook, MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube channel, that is MBCI TV Official. You can drop a comment or two, tell us where you're watching from. You can contribute in our discussion, and we'll be glad to also see what are some of your opinions as far as this particular discussion is concerned. And of course, as we always do in this particular show, we bring to you a guest who is, or maybe a guest who is actually acquainted or who is conversant with what is happening in the country, to be able also to get their perspectives and to be able to also get their opinions as far as this particular conversation is concerned. Today we are privileged to have Engineer Victor Ngatia. He's a governance and a political analyst. Karibu sana, engineer. Good to see you.
Asante sana.
It's been quite a while.
Oh, it's been a bit. Nasikia umeambiwa karibu. Karibu tena.
Hata mimi. Wow. Thank you so much. It's good to have you. And of course, we're looking forward, and I also know our viewers also looking forward to you maybe shedding some light as far as these particular areas are concerned. And of course, we want to start with the first one about having the office, because there has been talk, and we've actually even seen some of our leaders, even the president, actually are contributing as far as this particular question is concerned. But maybe just to begin, Engineer, as we are in the country, does it mean that we don't have opposition?
Well, to be very honest, we have an opposition.
Yes.
And from your intro, you already discussed or mentioned Baba is initiating the first meeting today,
right,
on the matters of opposition. I mean, to counter what the government is planning to do. But at the end of the day, for me, I think we have the opposition. Yeah. Whatever is being placed before us is, do they need a proper structure? Okay. And I think
that is what is lacking.
Yes.
So we're talking about structure. What are we looking at?
I mean, their leadership. I mean, at the end of the day, opposition is just running a government that is not in power. You know what I mean? Is you're running a government to check the real government, elected government. So you need finance. You need to have ways to maneuver. You will not just be able to check a government that is fully resourced while you're not resourced at all. And without a structure, yes, you can't get in finance. You know?
Because, Engineer, if my memory serves me right, I think we used to have opposition, but then when we got the 2020 constitution, Parliament was made in a way that we have the majority and the minority. My understanding is that the minority would serve as opposition, or how does it look like?
Well, no, that withstanding, they will automatically be the opposition because they're the minority. They will also have the minority head, you know, even in Parliament. So that at least, even if the government has their way, then they have their say. You get? So, but even if you have your say and you have no way of putting it or exerting pressure, for example, if we leave it as it is and we say we do not have a proper opposition structure, I think we'll have a situation where we go back to why we were agitating for BBI to come on board so that it can address that issue where the winner takes it all. But again, I would rather have a structure that sorts that issue such that even if I lose, then the winner does not assume office and forget that there are leaders or the other part of this country that want to see proper leadership. You know, we didn't believe in you, but you won. Are we guaranteed of leadership? And it's manifesting everywhere. Even in Nakuru County, we are seeing such things manifesting. Who will check that the people of Nakuru are getting what they wished to get, even if they didn't get the elected leader in office?
Yes, Kagi.
Yes, Engineer, I'm trying to reason myself regarding the a good idea, as Mandito just like you said, whereby we had an opposition leader, especially late Mwai Kibaki was a good opposition leader then.
Yes.
And Kagi, I'm being informed that they will be able to look into your microphone. But Engineer, coming back to you, and I think this is something that maybe even most Kenyans want to find out, because like the way we are seeing right now is a situation whereby even the government, and we've seen quite a number of leaders since maybe the government or the Kenya Kwanza government took over. There has been so many leaders who maybe, is it a matter of maybe people fearing to be in the opposition? Is it a matter of people maybe fearing to offer maybe these checks and balances? Because even as we speak, when you come maybe to Parliament, there is the notion, or maybe there is the talk that there are so many MPs, even those maybe who are not actually in support of the current government, but are now going to join government. Now, when you talk about a situation like this, what is it that is actually supposed to be done? And maybe it is it's something that maybe is quite unfortunate, maybe if it is not actually offered in the Constitution, but what is it that needs to be done to ensure that we have an opposition that therefore is actually solid, that is actually, like you said, is funded and is recognized, and that those who are there will not really feel they are intimidated by the current government?
Honestly speaking, as a country, the real issue that ails this country, we have failed to address. We love this touch-up, and you know, it's not really a proper way of dealing with the issues. Okay. We are going around the longer route. Our core problem in this country is corruption. And corruption has created a monster within us, such that it doesn't matter where you stand, whether you're in opposition or in government. If at the end of the day, that position is not going to generate the revenue through corrupt means, then you want to be associated immediately with the direction of governance that will guarantee you that return. And that's why you're seeing the exodus. Because many people are wondering, if I stay on the opposition, or rather in the opposition, will I be able to access these tenders? Will I be able to access this, this extreme slots in Parliament? Yes. I mean, they're looking for ways to get their pay up, Yeah. So the driving force is not the policy behind the political party or the side, whichever side that you support. Yes. It is what is in it for me. And that in itself means we must deal with the real issue, which is corruption, but we are not touching it. So it doesn't matter even if we bring the structure in, as much as it will help mitigate a bit of the issues, that we will not completely have sorted the problem, but it will help. Having a structure such that when I'm in the opposition and I still feel like I can still get resourced, that will still make me a bit comfortable in the opposition. But we're not seen anything yet. The exodus is coming, and everybody would want to be associated on the other side. Yeah. If, for example, the government manages to keep it dry, to keep the opposition dry in terms of coffers, then everybody else would want to go into government so that they can get something out of it, And that in itself is a problem. Okay. There lies the problem. And I'm hoping that as we go on and as we learn, because I think also we are getting to learn as we go along, that it is not always about corruption. At some point we will need some leadership that will stand, minimize to the lowest levels possible this corruption, and leaders would actually have a stand.
And Engineer, as you rightly put it, this is something that we can actually say there is enough evidence to show that maybe for those who have been in opposition, or for those who may be quote in quotes are perceived to be in opposition, have both the brand maybe of being left behind, maybe failing to get some of slots that you're talking about.
Yes, true, it's there, it's happened. Anybody who's seen to be anti-government, the government has been seen before harassing. Just before elections, you would see some people would be sent, the officers from Kenya Revenue Authority, and of course they would pull any file. And those kind of harassments would always push somebody off the stand of integrity, because at the end of the day, this is what I stand for. But if I stand hard on it, then they will come for me. So you actually get people moved off balance. And then I'm thinking, if we don't address the real issue, which is corruption, then at the end of the day, people will still be cowed off their positions. So we can do the plastic surgery. Let's have the structure. Let's have the official opposition leader. Let him have a shadow cabinet so they can check the cabinet. But then again, are we really addressing the real issue? Or will it be another conduit that people are getting paid, but nothing is happening?
Nothing is happening. A very good way of looking at it, Engineer, because come to look at it also from this particular perspective, what are some of the dangers? Like we've already mentioned that so many MPs, so many leaders, everyone seems like they want now to be in the government. It's like one is being stigmatized whenever maybe they look, or maybe whenever they are perceived to be anti-government. But when we don't have maybe a voice that strongly maybe criticizes the government, what are some of the dangers that we would face as a country as a nation?
Then we will see, in itself, before even we go to look at the many dangers, the fact that you don't have anybody who would question the government, that in itself is enough danger. Simply because we are a country known of impunity, and we've come a long way on that level of impunity. So if we do not have people checking on government, the level of impunity then will go up. The other day we had a CS telling us there are so many avenues that everyone is a candidate of death. And so introducing one more way to die
it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yes.
So what level of impunity do you hear coming out of such a CS? Already tells you they are not being checked, and they feel nothing about.
They can do anything. They can say anything with impunity.
But luckily, we have a constitution, and I'm happy that somebody went to court, and the court quashed that move. So at least we will not have GMOs coming in simply because somebody sat somewhere and thought this is the way to go. Because really, if you tell us we do not want to be, if you tell us that we don't need an opposition, today our biggest problem in agriculture is not lack of GMO, truth be told. The true problem facing this country today is the fact that we have not appreciated agriculture, we have not incentivized agriculture, and people are languishing in poverty and not producing simply because the country and the government that has been has not been forceful in ensuring that agriculture is actually part and parcel of our lives. So they need to finance, they need to give incentives, they need to ensure that the fertilizer is available. Whatever fertilizer we're having, if we are serious government, it must be guaranteed of quality. Because this is agriculture. Kenya is known to be agricultural. Then how do we actually import? The other day I had somebody from Uganda telling us we cannot survive without them because they give us food.
Yes.
That in itself is a problem, you know. Yes. And if you have a government without being checked, then we will not solve the problem. We'll go again and marinate another issue and say it's a problem, which, well, it's not the problem. And I think we must have a very strong opposition that is well structured, which is where I come and agree with the president. Let's have a structured opposition. Let them have something they can put on the table for the country to see and to be tabled in parliament, to be discussed as a policy. Because at the moment, if anything is to be done, people are using their money from the pockets. And it's making it very difficult. To come up with a policy is not cheap. So they need to be somewhere structured with finance, with proper backup, so they can present these things to Parliament to be discussed.
Okay, Kagi, I think your mic is now okay. I don't know what are some of your perspectives as far as this particular discussion is concerned.
Yeah, I think I wanted to talk about, as the engineer is saying, the structuring of the office of the opposition. And I can recall Mwai Kibaki was a good opposition leader who was articulating his issues in Parliament.
Yes.
I think the structure was different, as Simangicho had said, because after the 2010 new constitution, things really changed. Two, it's not the first time this issue is appearing. I can recall even in the BBI proposals, we had a proposal of having the office of the official opposition well structured. So I was asking myself, the president himself was against the constitution, and now he's bringing it in parliament, which is okay. Three, I feel the office itself, I feel is okay, but engineer, even though we are having a structured opposition, do you think it is one of the long-term scheme by the Kenya Kwanza team to be able to tame Raila Odinga? Although the office is not for Raila Odinga, but as we are sitting right now, if it is going to be in place, the person who is going to be the leader of opposition is Raila Odinga, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you think it is just a long-term scheme to be able to tame him? Especially if you allow him to loiter around the country like the way he wants to be in the next 1 month. It's going to disrupt the operations of the government.
Well, I don't believe it's a way to tame Baba. Democratically, I think it is the correct and the progressive way forward. It's only wise that we have such an office structured not necessarily for Raila, but for this country. Because there will be another opposition leader in 2027. And even in 2032, there will be another opposition leader. So we must look ahead and say, this is where we want to go. So let's start our steps in that direction. It is wise to say politically, or not wise, I think it is a political way of looking at things that it's a way to tame Raila. If Raila would have been tamed, it would have been done a long time ago. To date, he has not been tamed. So giving him an official opposition office and giving him his mandate does not necessarily tame him, but it empowers him. But we are free to look at it that way because we are only acting out of fear with what could be the president be up to.
Yeah, that's the question.
So there's this suspicion in this monster that is coming, called a structure.
You see, he said he personally is the one who is going to push for the seat.
Which I see leadership there. I see leadership, honestly. Let's get the office. If I go into that office, it is not the president who's paying that office. It is the taxpayer.
It's a Kenyan
so
taxpayer.
It is an office that is given to anybody who is second out of an election. And again, remember, you also alluded to the fact that this issue had been tabled in the BBI. So even if Baba would have become the president, that issue would still have come on board. But would you say on the same breath that Baba would be taming Ruto? Of course not. Yes. I think it's just a way to ensure that structures and going forward, there are ways and modalities of engagement. Remember, in 2013 and 17, the reason why we had those skirmishes is simple. In 2007, we didn't have avenues of engagement. Yes. So everybody was feeling a leader in whatever position they are.
Because, Engineer, and Kagi, because one of the other fears has been that unfortunately, maybe some of the leaders, and actually even maybe our top leaders, is speaking from both ends of the mouth. Because at one particular point, it's one thing to say that you are actually advocating for the presence, for the availability of the office of the opposition leader. But then you also see the same leaders also embracing leaders who are perceived to be in the position and welcoming them to actually join them in the government. So that one makes it look like a very tricky situation, and really one wonders what is actually in the heart, maybe of, or is there actually the political goodwill?
Of course, and everybody knows the president himself is a good schemer. You know, you cannot wish him off. Again, as you speak about maybe attracting the other members of opposition in the government, I'm also looking at this seat. Yes, I agree it is not for Raila Odinga. But I'm looking at it at this moment, and I believe even the president, as he is trying to mobilize his team to support this initiative, is also looking for his own short term, the 10 years. But again, on the other side, I believe Raila, if they are not careful as they create that office for him, they might be able to create for him a very good avenue now to be able to become a very strong politician, and of course he is, and also a person who is going to maybe mount a lot of pressure on the government, even more than where he is right now.
Now, adding to that, because again the government has been hard, as you say, even the deputy president, they've actually been welcoming, and we've heard them even in their rallies, even when they are in the churches, they're saying that we would like these people to actually check us.
Yes.
We would like them to criticize us. We would like them to actually tell us when is it that we are doing wrong, or maybe what is it that you're not doing right. But in essence, Engineer, do you really think that that is what they really wish to be?
Whether they wish it that way or not, the structure is the only way forward. It doesn't matter what you think, because if you think you're going to use a structured office to counter the benefits of the office, then you're cheating yourself. It's the same way that we actually have a constitution. There is no way, somebody must have sat somewhere someday and thought, let's pass this constitution so that we can win against that person. It doesn't work like that.
Yes.
The moment it's structured, it becomes a law. So you will not use that office again against the same people. You know? The suspicion is unfortunate that our country is coming from that point of we don't trust anybody, because we have seen it all. You know, everybody is scheming. The politics of this country is just about scheming. It's not about the people. It's not about the development. It's about, I get the position, let's get in there. Let's see who are my cronies. Let's get them in position. That is the politics we're playing. But again, on that office of the opposition, if you look at even the developed countries, they have structured office of the opposition.
Yeah.
And rarely do you see that office being used to actually tame the opposition. Unless we are maybe not necessarily worried about what the president is about. I think we are worried about the people who will sit in those very offices. Because then again, if I'm the opposition and I get this office and I have the salary now, and I have my allowances, will I be able to do the job of the opposition?
Okay.
I think that it could be the question we are having. Because that does not become the office of the president. That is the office of the official opposition leader. So if he actually is compromised, whose problem is it? Is it the president's? Is it the official opposition leader? Or is it the Kenyan people?
Yeah. Daktari, as you continue, I'm asking myself, where should this opposition leader operate from? From his office outside the parliament or inside the parliament? Which is the best place for him to operate from, right? To become effective. You know, I believe that right now we are trying to restructure it to be more effective, but there's a key question.
Well, I think at the end of the day, with or without the office, they have ways of meeting and discussing their agendas before they place them or they table them in parliament. So an office in parliament or out of parliament or within the government offices is neither here or there. Although it will be wise, once it is structured, you will not be told to go and work in a hotel somewhere. The government will provide as an official office. It might be a private building that will be had by the government. Because even today, I think we've seen that Raila at the end of the day still has an office paid for by the government.
Sure.
So the government will still provide that office, but that will be the official office of the opposition.
Yeah, and I heard the team from the opposition are proposing that should be allowed that the leader of official opposition to be addressing parliament often.
Well, often is what they would wish for. But at the end of the day, even the president does not address parliament often.
Maybe once per year?
So a similar thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have the floor of the House. And they can marshal their numbers and do whatever they want to do and table in parliament. And then again, you see, they normally don't have so much input as to what the speaker tables. So I think the structure, again, will give them the advantage of actually pushing on the agenda on what the speaker tables, you know, because mainly the speaker will table what the government says because it's from the government side.
Yeah, and Mangicho also is good to clarify one issue of the shadow cabinet. Many people have been hearing about engineer, the shadow cabinet, who are in the opposition side. And who are these people? What do they do? Are they paid?
Well, I may not have proper a robust response to whether they're paid or not, because at the moment even we don't even know who are the shadow cabinet. But then again, the reason why they're not there is because there is no structure in the opposition. We have a government structure, and they go ahead and even vet the CSs and the PSs, yes. But we don't have a structure today of the opposition that they can have the shadow cabinet. I can assume I'll be the shadow cabinet for the Minister of Roads. But really, with what authority or what portfolio do I have as an opposition? But now with the structure, then that will be part of what will be there. And they will be able to question directly on each particular ministry. And then remember, this particular, back in the older constitution, the ministers were MPs. So it was very easy for you to now quote Kibaki being very strong as an opposition leader, because they were in parliament and they were discussing, and they had a way of getting the shadow cabinet, all right? Because they are all members of parliament and they're in parliament and they can question
it was very easy for them.
Now, for now, there must be something else that will come into play. Now you can see we have a hybrid that at times we wanted to have some MPs can become ministers, so we can allow. In the constitution, that is not allowed. So we have very few instances where a minister actually comes to parliament for questioning, you know, which the structure now will give a direction, you know, because if you're looking for ways that they can engage the ministers, how will they engage them out of parliament? And these are now, the shadow cabinet is not outsiders. The shadow cabinet will be members of parliament, and the only question in parliament. You get? So it's a structure that is very necessary, not necessarily looking at it on the political angle of taming.
And of course, even as we discuss about these, I think one of the key issues that have actually been of a major concern to us as a nation is the issue of independence. And of course, we've had quite a number of institutions. I know even later on we'll be talking about the Independence Electoral, or the IBC, the Electoral Agency. Now, when you're talking about the independence of the institution, because we've had a scenario whereby people have been accused those who are in the opposition. My director is telling me that we need to take a break at this particular point, but we'll be coming back with much and more. Continue keeping your eyes right here on the Mid-Morning Pack, right here on MBCI TV. We are coming back after this short breather.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
With Guamaka of Essence of Worship from Tanzania. Anna Thuo. Kingdom Seekers Fellowship Praise Team and other ministers of God. Be part of the live praises and worship, prayer and intercessions punctuated by ministration of the Word of God. At the Church Without Walls, live on Facebook, at Apostle John Kimani William, YouTube, at Apostle John Kimani William Official on MBCI Television and MBCI Radio. It's God's will for you to live a life that He has ordained for you. Register for a spot at the conference on www.ksf.church/GOR. These are interdenominational services open to all.
Kiongozi wa wachache katika bunge la kitaifa anaitwa nani?
Anaitwa Babu Owino. Babu Owino.
Kule kwenye umeoa ni nani ambaye unafaa kumuita shemeji, baba mke wako ama mama mke wako?
Si wote ni mashemeji.
What?
Si wote ni mashemeji.
Ibila. Mama wa mke wako na baba mke wako wote ni mashemeji zako.
Mumuno too much.
Ni ocean gani ndo kubwa zaidi ulimwenguni?
Tuseme ni Kisumu.
What is wrong with you?
Which ocean is the largest in the world?
Indian Ocean.
I will bury you alive.
Ocean kubwa zaidi ulimwenguni inaitwaje?
Inaitwa Lake Victoria.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back and thank you so much for being with us. You are still joining us on the Mid-Morning Pack right here on MBCI TV, your weekly show discussing current affairs, topical issues and everything in between. Today we have lined up for you 3 key areas: the office of the official opposition leader, the creation, that is what we've heard. There's been talk in the town about the creation of this particular office. How important will it be? What are some of the structures that need to be put into place to ensure that it is firm and it serves Kenyans well? A little bit later on, we'll look at the IEBC, the state of the electoral body in the country. And later on, also in the show, appointments in our county government. Case scenario in Meru and also in Nakuru. And on the set is Engineer Victor Ngati helping us to look at this particular issue, giving us some of the details that we need to ensure we know. You are catching us live on our social media pages, that is MBCI TV on Facebook, and also on YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. Our SMS platform is 23814. Drop a comment or two. We'll be glad to also see what are some of your perspectives on the same. Just before the break, we were talking about the issue of independence. And of course, we've had accusations in this country of those who are in the government going to bed with those who are in the opposition now, talking about the structures engineer. So what needs to be, when you're looking at these structures, and maybe you can help us to unpack it a little bit so that we can be able to know, therefore, what is it that needs to be done? Because there are also those who are thinking it's just a way of those maybe who did not take the government, trying also to see what is it that they can get, and not necessarily with the interest of actually putting the government in check.
Unfortunately, that cannot be ruled out. That it could be just something for them to pocket, as official opposition leaders. Although, my opinion and my personal take would be, I would rather we have a structure, because then we can hold somebody accountable. But without a structure, then we have no locus to hold anybody accountable. So that, number one, it will help. Number two, it does not negate the fact that they could just abuse the office anyway. We have seen many other offices abused, and there's nothing much we did. And I'm back to my initial point. We must always have that feeling or that question in our mind. This issue about corruption, up to what level does it affect our normal life?
You're right.
Because we can talk big names, we can use all sorts of jargons. But at the end of the day, if we still do not deal with the real issue, the cycle is the same. So the structure is good, it should be there. It gives us a way of holding somebody accountable. So if he's in that office and he does not do a good job, then he cannot ask me that he wants to be the president after the current president. Then he must show us that he has done something in that office. His cabinet, then he must have a cabinet that will be able to hold the true cabinets on check. So if they fail to do that job, then how can they convince us that they are the government in waiting? You know? So the structure is good. I support 100%. But we must also not forget that it can be abused. But now, if it's abused, what's our recourse?
What is our recourse?
That's the big question here. What's our recourse? Then if we kick them out, do we now re-elect the government that was not checked? You know? Yes. And if they did bad, then who do we elect? Because we have a failed government, and we also have a failed opposition government.
Yes.
You know? But the structures is a plus for us.
Oh, fair enough. I think for the interest of time, we have to look at the second area of our discussion or conversation, and that is has to do with the IEBC. Of course, Kagi, recently we've seen two of the IEBC commissioners, that is Cherera, and we also have Nyang'aya. They've quit. Yes, they've bowed out, and we know what is actually happening as far as the IEBC is concerned. But my issue is, in this country, engineer, this is a major concern, because most of the time we've had elections, say for 2002, we've had a scenario whereby those who win an election, they see IEBC as a fair arbiter. Those who lose, they believe the IEBC was not a fair arbiter, and they interfered with the elections.
Results, yes.
I mean, should this be the scenario every time we reach an electioneering period?
Most unfortunately in this country, we have refused to accept that you can actually run a proper election, that it is unquestionable. In as much as we have access to technology, we have access to data capture technology that can give us 100% correct data. For example, today, I think we are in the 10th or the 15th year of M-Pesa. It is sealed end to end, and we don't lose money. But we lose votes, which for me, I think, it is left open with an end game on it.
Yeah.
So if we really want to finish up that issue, that an electoral process can be legitimate and it can give us results that is unquestionable, we have a way out.
But is it just a matter of those who have lost maybe failing to concede and therefore just looking at where maybe to put the blame, and in this particular case, the first person to be blamed would be the electoral body? Or is it really a case of this particular institution not doing its job the way it is supposed to be?
Well, it's various factors. It's various factors, because it's not just an institution. Because if you look at the much perception that had been created, is that the IEBC had been compromised, had been compromised, such that you have a particular part of the commission that believes in one end of the political divide and the other half on the other side. So you have an institution already whose independence is questionable from the way they're actually reasoning from the center of that institution. You get? So automatically, as a Kenyan, how would I feel? I feel I'm divided. Maybe they're right, or maybe they're right. Who's right? You get? So I think we must also acknowledge that if they leave a vacuum somewhere that will create that suspicion, automatically everybody will have their way. I will actually have a thing to pinpoint at. And again, listen, it's not easy to lose. I've been there and I've lost. And it's painful. So I wouldn't want to just be seen as a loser. At times I would want to come out and show I didn't lose.
It's much painful to lose unfairly.
Yes. I didn't lose. It's these people who played games,
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, can they give us a seal-proof election voting mechanism such that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where I vote from. The softwares are there. We have technology. Such that once you vote, it doesn't matter whether you're in Tanzania or whether you're in Europe.
Yeah.
You can vote and that vote is final.
But you see, those who blame, or those maybe who think that those who are against the electoral body, they are just against it maybe because of the very reason that they lost. Because there are those who will argue that maybe in an election like this one, other than those who are in the contesting, maybe it was a given, or maybe so many people are approved, or so many people were actually okay with how maybe they conducted, and that maybe leaves a lot of question as maybe to what really needs to be done to ensure that this particular institution actually gets the trust of the entire nation, regardless of maybe how the outcome of the election would be.
One thing they did that was commendable, the IBC, uploaded the Form 34As.
Yes, in the public portal.
Which is a way forward.
And every Kenyan was in a position to
see. Yes. But also, I think we need to go further, because when you actually indicate that somebody else can access and upload a similar, then automatically that's a loophole that can be used to say the institution is failing. I think we just need to go to the next level of the uploading should actually properly, I don't know how, but there is a way we can have a document that is uploaded that is not questionable. Whatever it is, something can be done that whatever will be uploaded is final. And that will make it very easy. And I'm sure you can tell even the courts, they used that to give their judgment. Okay. But again, still, the opposition still felt that these forms took some time. They were uploaded, I think, I heard it was JPEG, and then somebody converted. So who converted? You see, those are loopholes that create a scenario of something happened. Well, in actual sense, let's say this document will be uploaded, and immediately it's uploaded, it's available. And the people who are supposed to be there, they can be told, you need to verify that this is exactly what that is uploaded. So the person who's locally on the ground verifies this is correct. So we just need to seal those loopholes. Once we seal that, we don't need to have issues again after even going to court, because then I can authenticate the document. Yes. But when you have something is black and white, or something is colored, one is in image, one is a PDF, those are...
Yes, I think that engineer, yes, what you're saying is correct. I'm going to give a short brief of the history of the IEBC and other whatever, but you're going to give your sentiment on that. Yep. Number one, I feel that by the IEBC, the two officials, or the one official who have declared is going to attend the tribunal, I feel it is a good gesture. Because by going to the tribunal, I feel that they are going to get a chance to be able to explain maybe what was not explained. That is number one. You comment on that.
Yep.
Number two, I feel that the electoral agency has really progressed since the year maybe 1997 when we had we started mobilizing about opposition. And I can recall about the issue of when the president, especially President Moi, used to appoint the not IEBC, but electoral agency commissioners. The president himself, and he was participating in election, which later on brought birth to a lot of pressure, opposition, by that time, 1997, whereby they introduced something they called IPPG. Because if you are fighting in the leadership presidency, you cannot just wish away the electoral agency. You need to be very sure the players in that agency are not questionable. You need to feel represented. IPG came, but it was not in the constitution. They agreed that now the KANU side is going to give some commissioners, the opposition, to present their commissioners, just to bring what they called the level playing ground.
Sure.
And if you look at that history, Mangicho, I feel it's good to admit that we have really made a huge progress. And we are not stopping at there, as what the engineer is saying. That now we need now to think beyond the uploading the portals. Yeah? Something else need to be done again. And I was thinking, in US, you can elect before even the election day. You can vote. And your vote is going to be counted. That is where we should now be looking for. That one day you can vote and you're 100% sure that your vote is counted for.
You know, when you talk about in years, your vote will be counted. I want to believe you're not saying in Kenya our vote is
no, I think he's concerned about if I vote before the day, will my vote really appear? Or will it disappear?
That is it. You know? Because our election day is a do or die.
Yes.
Yeah. We can also try to...
Those are very good perspectives, Kagi. And engineers, you actually contribute on the same. Because now the problem that we've been having, or maybe what people think is the major problem, is the major hurdle as far as getting an independent electoral body in our country is concerned, is the issue of the politicians. So how do we get rid of these politicians in matters to do with our electoral body?
There's one thing.
Is it really even feasible?
You see, if we abide with the rule of law, the law is never ambiguous on particular issues. But at times you want to go political. And when you go political, that's why everybody has their right. So they will say, no, I don't believe in who you chose. I think he will be biased, so I need mine too. So the IPPG was more of a political solution to ensure that everybody feels taken care of and involved, so that the outcome is all agreeable to all of us. But you saw again what happened, even after that. And I think we can never agree if we do not have where we are basing our decisions on. If it's the rule of law, so be it. And that's why even today, if an election is contested, then the Supreme Court gives a finality. And you can see even the opposition leader today, he says he did not agree with the ruling, but he abided with the ruling. By it. Okay? So it's because that's where we must all fall back, just so that we can coexist. But in actual sense, there are ways we can ensure that it is guaranteed this is correct. And as I said initially, on them having a way to ensure that once a vote is cast, it cannot be disputed. That's the only way we can go about this. But then again, our politicians are in this, it's a do or die. So I must get it. You know, so if he's a president, he's looking at it, I must get it. If I don't get it, there's a problem. There's war. And that's what kills our elections.
Because like we're speaking now, those who we can say are actually in the opposition, talking about maybe the Azimio coalition, they already have the fear that the current government wants to interfere with the 2027 elections.
Actually, I can somewhat feel them, and I understand why. Having been an Azimio coordinator in Nakuru, I understand totally. Because when you actually know that you can easily put a country in a constitutional crisis, where you have no commissioners running an IEBC, whatever window, whether a week or two, and you know that it's a process to actually get these people in office. For that period, knowing how many people, how many by-elections we're going to have in this country, and you're saying there's a window, there'll be nobody to make a decision on behalf of IEBC, then really, what leadership is that? You know, I think it's only wise that we remember that whatever the case, Kenya comes first. And that is a wisdom we want to see in the president and even in the leaders that we elect in office today. If there's no wisdom, then we have a problem. We cannot intentionally drive the country into a crisis and then purport to be the same leaders to come and resolve. Because that will have killed the purpose of the country as a unit.
Yeah.
You know?
And I want to ask Engineer one question regarding the selection of the commissioners.
Yes.
We are aware that one of the laws which are on the table of the House is to allow the members of Parliament to select the IEBC commissioners, right? Do you feel it is correct or it is more suspicious?
Yeah, and even as you answered that, because how comes, because I remember like maybe in the previous elections, you'd see a scenario, you'd see a process whereby all the MPs, maybe those who are in the government, those maybe are not in the government, all of them maybe coming to an agreement or coming to a consensus that maybe this is the list. And everyone actually showing a lot of trust in those maybe who have been elected. A case example is the chairman, Chebukati. Okay?
Yes.
I remember there was a time both the camps were actually satisfied with...
That is a man.
He's a man actually to do the job. So then, how is it that maybe, even with a lot of satisfaction, with a lot of this trust, things just change and one side now feels, no, this was not actually the right person? And how do we avoid...
See, there's also one thing Kenyans must also learn, that we cannot all be president, we cannot all be commissioners, we cannot all be governors at the same time. The purpose of an election is so that we can establish the leadership. And once we establish the leadership, it's only wise to give them the time to do their job. Many a times, these leaders are fairly and elected into positions or appointed, but we really push them due to political interests. And our political interest at times overrides their office mandate. But then again, you see, once I get Mangicho into a serious office like that one, and I manage to play his mind that he now plays my game in that office, then we have a compromised leader. And that's the scenario we are facing in this country in many offices. Whether it's an elected MP, because an elected MP gets into office and he's given 20,000 shillings and he votes the other side in whatever way, whatever is being pushed, you know. So the kind of leaders...
Still comes back to corruption.
It goes back to the original issue. It's what is in our mind and what have we set in our minds on what leadership is all about, you know. And I'm thinking, if I look at this issue of, the parliament today to come up with new commissioners, I think we just need to stick with the law. It's unfortunate that the two opted to resign. Then again, it goes back to...
By resigning, did they show that maybe...
there are many things. There are many things.
There were culprits of what maybe they are being accused of?
That is one possibility. Number two, it could be self-preservation. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if the tribunal rules and you have an issue, then you have a case to answer. So all these things, again, goes down to tell us, what exactly did we have in that office as leaders? You know? So now they've out. At least I'm glad there are two who have not resigned, and I pray they should not resign. Why? Because we need to have some truth come out. Because there are people who would rather die and not tell the truth. So let's let Kenyans get the truth so that we are wiser going forward.
Okay.
Number two, or number three, I would be very worried about the way in which the parliament today is constituted and the number of elected members of parliament who've already changed sides simply because they want to be pro-government and they're willing to work with the government. That in itself would actually now bring another red flag and bring up new leaders who will be countering what is happening under the law. Because they are worried now that the numbers being marshaled are being marshaled specifically to come up with the IBC that will be favoring President Ruto in 2027.
Right.
So already we are creating a perception that will create another animosity come 2027. But Kenyans don't see it until it happens.
Okay, and that is the question that I had started with the engineer about. So as we look at it, we can actually maybe say it's very difficult or it's almost impossible to get rid of politicians, or maybe not to actually have politicians in the entire process. But then, of course, we are a nation and we are not just comprised of politicians. When you talk about these other organizations, maybe what role, therefore, can they play? Talking about maybe civil society, maybe talking about trade unions. How can they, therefore, come in and contribute to ensure that maybe we have a fair, we have a trustworthy electoral body?
Well, as I said, it takes time. It's a process to come up with the right law and to draft it. And these organizations are there and they have access to this information and they have examples of how it has been done in other countries and how it's working. Because we don't just have bad examples of countries that are doing it badly. I'm sure we have examples of countries that are doing it better and they're having a good time, you know, and their citizens are happy. We have indexes showing the happiest country or the people who are best fed. All that is there. We have reference points. So having a country that seems not to know anywhere else that it's working better, of course we are fooling ourselves. We have ways of making sure it works well. The private organizations or the non-government organizations, they can come in and inject their knowledge or their skill in what works well for the people. Help in drafting these policies. They can work with the opposition or work with the government, such that we have a policy that will guide how the country moves forward in matters electoral law. And I think what Chebukati did and with his team of uploading, I don't see any commission that will get rid of that one. Because in one way or another, it helped settle a number of worries. Because in as much as an Azimio adherent will actually believe that they won, at some point, they are lost of words when these particular forms show that they lost, you know? So if that can be perfected, whatever it takes, how we put it into law, this is what we should be discussing. How do we embed this in law such that it is well done, such that we don't go to court again for the court to say something has to be done, you know, every 5 years. I think now is the time to look at it and have it to finality such that it is done, and once, you know, whoever loses in 2027 will see it from the word go, I've lost. So there's no need of going to court, because the court will just bring the document and you lost, you know.
So we are relying on the parliament to be able to come up with these rules?
As I said, you see, that is the arm that comes with the law of this country.
Yeah.
And we can never run away from it. Yes. But all I'm trying to say is that there are other non-government organizations who can help with coming up with this new law, or, you know, whether it will be a bill that will actually be tabled in Parliament and can be discussed. And at that point of discussion, then we can see which is the way forward. Because today the opposition could be in bed with the government.
Yes.
But remember, at some point you'll have to break away.
Yeah.
So if we break away in 2026, in readiness for 2027, do we have a law in place that will protect me? So now they might want to play games. But there comes a time they will think for sure we'll need to pass a proper bill. We lost, we don't want to lose again. So a bill can come and it can be tabled and it can sort our problem, at least for the next few years to come.
Yeah, but I think I could remember some of the mistakes done by the IEBC in the previous elections. These elections and elections, previous elections, there was a repetition of some mistakes which were pointed out by the Supreme Court in the last elections. And I was wondering, how comes the mistakes pointed out by the Supreme in the first case has also reappeared again in the second case? And still, the Supreme Court seems not to have more powers, even to be able to subject the IEBC to maybe punishment for what they have done. It was just left in the open.
It's unfortunate that happened, because if there's no recourse, if there's no criminality in anything, for example, if the IEBC repeat a mistake or an error that they were pointed to in the last general election, then that in itself should be punishable.
Yeah.
The moment you fail to punish, then you open a door for a repeat. You open a door for impunity. You open a door for lack of respect.
Yeah.
You get? So I think we need to be very careful that we must hold people accountable. We have given you an office, and if you fail your duties, you must be held to account.
Yes.
For example, another thing I think about on that issue of holding people to account.
Yes.
We have had scenarios where we say the government needs to privatize institutions because we are losing money in parastatus. And I don't understand it. If I'm working for Barclays, for example, and I'm the chief executive officer, and we lose revenue as a private entity, most likely I will be fired. And if not, arrested and jailed.
Right.
But if you look at our CEOs in these parastatus, who are manning and managing billions of money, taxpayers' money, they lose billions, and we know where the money goes, but after that, they are elected into office as members of parliament. So one way we are saying we are dealing with it, so we want to privatize it.
Okay.
That's not the solution. The solution is making sure this guy is accountable. Meaning, if I give you 10 billion, you must manage it in a manner that after this whole year, you must be able to tell me, this is where the 10 billion went.
Sure.
If you don't, then we hold you liable. That's the only time we'll have governors performing. That's the only time we'll have parastatos performing.
Okay.
But if you can lose money and the next thing is you're transferred to another parastato, what stops you from stealing again from that new parastato?
Sure. I think fair enough on that particular area, because I'm being told that we only have 10 minutes. Kagi, you have to look at the final area of our discussion, and this is what is happening in Nakuru County and also in Meru County. County appointments. Engineer, what is your reading of these two counties? What's happening there? Because as we speak, the court in Nakuru quashed the list of the C seats of Governor Susan Kihika. And it's all about the issue of not showing a fair representation of the communities.
Which I agree with the court ruling. And I also think we cannot all be governors. The current governor is Her Excellency Susan Kihika.
Yes.
And I actually feel like she should be left to do her thing. Let her do her appointments.
Okay. Regardless of how she does it?
Not regardless. Let her do her appointments. But remember, she has a way of making sure that she looks at all those things we're looking at. Because when we look at representation, she has a way of making sure that everybody is represented. Because even if you listen to her argument about how she appointed these particular individuals, she has some aspect of, okay, makes some sense. Because when you say, I decided to go by sub-counties.
But are there laws to show how this appointment is
No. The law is actually says it should show fair representation of communities. All right? But then again, what's a community? As far as I'm concerned, a community is not a tribe.
Because you're not talking about Kikuyus, or not
no,
about
because
Luos and Luyas.
the argument indirectly is talking about tribe.
Yes.
Indirectly. But let's not also forget that the elections were done against parties. So it was Azimio against UDA, against Kenya Kwanza, blah, 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 all right?
Yes.
That was elections. But when it comes to governance, governance is not about elections now. Governance is fair representation. So we cannot now say we will only give those who are with us. And that's where the law will always just tell you you're wrong. So she still needs to go back and do her thing. But over and above that...
So is it because Nakuru is different from these other counties?
It's
not.
not.
Is that why is it the reason why it's attracting a lot of attention? Because we don't see a similar case maybe in Nyandarua, maybe in Uasin Gishu.
Well, comparing that with Uasin Gishu or Nyandarua would not work, because Nyandarua is...
So it's basically because these are cosmopolitan
This is Cosmo. But then again, it's not the only cosmopolitan town.
I wonder how Sakaja did it. They should buy a leaf from there.
What I will tell you, we have something special or peculiar about Nakuru. And Nakuru is peculiar in how they want to fight. We will fight this until next year because we want to win against her.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily that the people who are appointed are not good. Because I think, let the governor do her thing, let her mess, let us hold her accountable. All right? Because if these people who are appointed are locals.
So messing is not on the appointment, if I'm getting you well.
No. It's not. The appointment is not a mess. Because she has a way she's thought about it. She tells us that she did not give any seat to Kuresoi South, yes, because that's where she got her governor. I think it makes a lot of sense. The deputy governor has a portfolio. Yeah. So she did not look at the tribe. She looked at the community, which is what do you call it? Kuresoi South. Is taken care of by one of us. Then she goes to Rongai. She gets one from Rongai. Because again, the people who did the elections in Rongai, who elected people in Rongai, decided on a particular individual. Yeah. So if these people decided is going to be, for example, what do you call him, Bor, it is correct that the numbers would want representation from that community. So that's her way of looking at it. The judge and everybody else who's taken a petition, they have a different way of ensuring the community is taken care of. Yes. So we cannot all be governors, because that's your way, this is my way. But I have already appointed people. Unless you tell me I've brought people from overseas or from other areas, that's when you can question. But really, it's not. I think my take is, let the governor make her mistakes. Let us hold her to account. Okay? But over and above that, yes, fair representation here, I'm very worried if we go towards tribal. Because really, we have over 43 tribes in this country. Yes. We are talking about 10 slots. So which tribe should get and which one should not? You get? Because now, if today we get...
So this is something that cannot be achieved?
It's because everybody wants to win. It's a fight for no apparent reason. If today we give 10 tribes, are we saying the other 33 can now go to court and stop the 10 tribes? Because why did they get? We cannot talk about tribes. It's the worst way to go. Time has come that Nakuru should realize it's not about the governors. Because it's not about Susan, it's not about the former governor, it's not even about Kennedy Mbugua. It is now about the people of Nakuru County. They need leadership, and they need representation, and they need service delivery. So these fights are sideshows.
So 3 months, maybe almost 3 months, going maybe to the 4th month, and we don't have a government in place because of now this push and forth in the court. Are we affected as a county?
I expect Her Excellency to be very smart on this move. This is her call. Because if she does not do it right, and I don't think there's a problem in her doing it right, she can get another way of doing it right, we might lose another 6 months. 100 days are gone. We go into another, maybe next year up to March, I don't know. Yeah. And if that happens, I will not be surprised if we still have another 6 months. So here, wisdom checks in. It's upon her. Yes, it's upon her now. She needs to sit alone and make a proper decision on what to do. But I think we need to stop these fights and be the people, and owned Nakuru County.
Do you think also in Meru they should leave the governor do her thing?
Well, I think in Meru is special.
It's an isolated case.
Because one, remember Nakuru,
yes.
The governor has almost 80% of the MCAs of the county assembly. So apart from the court issues, most likely, once we go to the county assembly, she will have her way.
And of course,
simply because it's the house that they put in order. But if we go to Meru, we have an independent governor, and we have a majority, I think, of UDA in parliament, in the county assembly. So before they see eye to eye, it might take a while. And the way she's running that government.
Do you think the MCAs have a legitimate point of the accusations leveling against her?
Well, I don't want to say a lot about that. I've not followed very keenly. But I think...
because it also has to do with appointments.
It happens. I think it started, with the appointment of her husband into her government. And that in itself, people wonder. Yesterday, I remember I was tweeting and I was wondering, many a times Kenyans are told to fight for their rights. And they come out and fight. But who eats or who takes the fruit home? And that is the question here. Because we are supposed to fight for our rights.
Okay.
But when the fruit is home, the few people take the fruit home. You know? So we must be very careful, because let's not allow them to just take the fruits home. Can we now say, let's all divide this fruit here for us?
Yeah, as you were saying, I think...
we have some 2 minutes, Kagi.
Okay.
Maybe as we just wind up.
I think the governor for Meru needs to sit down and think.
Thoroughly.
Because her situation is very...
chaotic.
It's just a crisis. It's just unforgiving. And I remember his situation...
She asked for forgiveness actually 70 times to represent the number of the MCAs.
But the way he did it was just, yeah.
Because they're human beings.
Yeah, his story reminds me of where Governor Wabora was taken by the county assembly.
Yes.
In fact, the newspapers were reporting the governor with 9 lives.
Yes.
Finally he had to toe the line. You see? But for this one, you need to sit down and rethink hard, because running a government without members in the county assembly is not easy.
So bottom line with some of these kind of
scenarios. And in fact, you should remember that they're already drafting another impeachment.
So yesterday,
after the first one failed.
Yes. So now, they will go on and on. They are ready. And you remember, this lady is independent. So she doesn't have any proper backup.
Yes.
So it's a fight she's fighting alone. So if she's not wise, this might just topple her.
Okay. So, Engineer, what's your opinion on, of course, today we're having Azimio meetings, beginning today?
Let the Azimio meetings go on.
Do you think they'll bear some fruits? Maybe in 30 seconds?
Well, bearing fruits might not be very easy. I don't want to say that and to be seen as negative on those moves. Having been a coordinator for Azimio, there are many things. If you listen to the president the other day speaking, and he was joking and telling people, watch up to Beba Ufala. And that's where my question was coming. After fighting for our rights and coming out in numbers, who takes the fruit home? The president alluded to the fact that we know the Azimio leader has the sister as the governor somewhere or as a senator. The brother is a senator somewhere. I think the daughter now is at the Yala, Assembly, East African Legislative Assembly. And those are simple points. But it really gets home. Because when you are told, now you people come out and fight more. So that the goodies can be released. Once they are released again,
who goes with the goodies?
Who takes them home? So that in itself might really disorganize or disorganize the opposition at the moment in their push to having these meetings and pushing people to push for their rights again. Don't forget again, on the other hand is Kalonzo. Kalonzo as well has his son in East African Legislative Assembly. So already they are being told, you guys go, we will actually protect you. But it might be an elective period again. Because we are just being shot even before you start the race.
Sure.
You know, and the police are already waiting. Although this might be an indication of what we expect from the president going forward, how he handles this move by Honorable Raila will give us a very good indication of what kind of president we'll have for the next 5 years.
Wow. And I think we have to bring it to a stop at this particular point. But of course, those are some of the issues that are actually affecting us as a country at the moment. And of course, it's always good, it's always important, it is always imperative for us to be able to talk and highlight these particular issues and try to make sense of them and even bring some clarity. Thank you so much, Engineer Victor Ngatia.
Karibu sana.
Always a pleasure to have you on this particular
sana.
set, helping us to unpack some of these nitty-gritties.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Of course, Kagi, we are looking forward to Jamhuri Day, that is on Monday.
Yes.
And this time around, the president had said that these national holidays will be coming with themes. So the theme for Monday during the Jamhuri Day celebrations is innovation. And as we speak, there are some students who have innovated affordable flow through the use of grass.
Yeah.
At Kabarak University.
Waiting to see.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning for the Mid-Morning Pack, the 7th day of December 2022. My name is Paul Kagi. Till next week, God willing, bye for now.
Thank you so much, and my name is Mangicho Mola. Remember, we are having the Times of Refreshing conference. Make sure that you attend, you avail yourself. Also, you can watch it through our social media platforms, and of course, you'll have yourself a blessed. My name is Mangicho Mola. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.